This is absolutely insane. I cannot believe what just went down backstage at WWE RAW, and honestly, I'm sitting here genuinely angry about how WWE handled this entire situation. The Usos just captured the World Tag Team Championships in the most dominant fashion we've seen all year, and instead of celebrating like champions should, they walked into a situation that has completely divided the bloodline. Roman Reigns showed up backstage right after their victory, and what happened next will absolutely blow your mind. This is not the celebration everyone expected. This is not the triumphant moment the Usos deserve. Instead, this is a shocking turn of events that has left the entire WWE universe questioning everything we thought we knew about the Bloodline's unity and loyalty. If you're a diehard WWE fan, you need to watch this entire video because what I'm about to break down will change how you view the Bloodline forever. And seriously, I need you to comment below and tell me, what do you think the Usos should have done in that moment? Would you have stood up to Roman Reigns, or would you have fallen in line like a loyal soldier? The atmosphere backstage at WWE RAW was absolutely electric after the Usos secured the World Tag Team Championships. These two have been on a journey that very few wrestlers have experienced. They've fought tooth and nail, they've overcome obstacle after obstacle, and finally, they reached the mountaintop. Their victory wasn't just any victory either, it was dominant. It was impressive. It was the kind of performance that makes you believe these two are the absolute best tag team in the entire world right now. The crowd was losing their minds. The announcers were going absolutely crazy. Even their families were celebrating in the stands. This was supposed to be the Usos' moment. This was supposed to be the time when they could bask in glory, when they could hoist those championships above their heads and feel the weight of accomplishment. But then everything changed in an instant. Roman Reigns appeared backstage, and the entire energy shifted. Now, here's where things get interesting because Roman Reigns' intentions weren't immediately clear. Was he coming to congratulate his cousins? Was he coming to acknowledge their achievement? Was he coming to celebrate with the Bloodline as the family extended their dominance over the entire WWE? Nobody knew. But what we did know was that Roman Reigns had something to say, and when the tribal chief speaks, everybody listens. The tension in that backstage segment was absolutely palpable. You could cut it with a knife. The Usos stood there with their newly won championships, and Roman Reigns walked in with that look, that same look that has intimidated superstars all across the WWE for years. This moment right here, this is the moment that changed everything for the Bloodline's future. What Roman Reigns said in that moment was shocking. He didn't immediately congratulate the Usos. Instead, he questioned their performance, their approach, and their methods. Roman Reigns is known for his perfectionism, for his demand for excellence, and he made it crystal clear that he expected nothing less than absolute perfection from every member of the Bloodline. He pointed out specific moments in their match where they could have been more dominant, where they could have executed their game plan with even greater precision. The Usos tried to explain themselves, tried to defend their performance, but Roman Reigns wasn't hearing it. This is the problem with being part of the Bloodline under Roman Reigns' leadership. There's always going to be that expectation of being the absolute best, of never making mistakes, of maintaining that standard of excellence that the tribal chief has set. But here's where it gets really intense. Roman Reigns started talking about loyalty. He started talking about respect. He made it abundantly clear that while the Usos had won the championships, that achievement only meant something if they understood where that achievement came from. He reminded them that the Bloodline is what made them champions. The Bloodline is what gave them the power and the ability to walk into that ring and dominate their opponents. Roman Reigns wasn't just making a speech, he was establishing dominance. He was reminding the Usos that no matter what they achieve, no matter what championships they win, they are still answerable to the tribal chief. They are still soldiers in the Bloodline army. And that message hit differently coming right after their victory. The Usos' reaction was mixed, which tells you everything you need to know about the tension within the Bloodline right now. Jimmy and G have always been loyal to Roman Reigns. They've always understood the hierarchy. They've always respected the tribal chief. But winning the World Tag Team Championships is a monumental achievement, and they deserve to celebrate that without feeling like they're being diminished or questioned. Yet here they were, standing in front of Roman Reigns, trying to maintain their composure while their tribal chief basically told them that their win wasn't good enough, that their performance needed to be better, that they owed everything to the Bloodline structure. This moment revealed something crucial about the Bloodline's dynamic that we haven't really seen explored in depth before. We've always known that Roman Reigns is the top guy, the undisputed leader, the tribal chief who makes all the decisions. But the Usos have always seemed comfortable in that role. They've always appeared to embrace their position within the hierarchy. This backstage segment, however, showed us that there might be some cracks forming in that foundation. When you win the biggest championship of your career and the first thing you get is criticism instead of celebration, how long can you really stay loyal? How long can you really respect someone who refuses to acknowledge your achievements? The conversation continued with Roman Reigns laying out expectations for what comes next. He told the Usos that their championship reign would be used to further the Bloodline's agenda. Their championship reign would be used to demonstrate the Bloodline's absolute dominance over tag team wrestling. They weren't just champions for themselves, they were champions for the family, for the legacy, for the reputation that Roman Reigns has spent years building. The Usos acknowledged this, but you could see in their eyes that something had shifted. There was a moment of hesitation. There was a moment where they seemed to question whether winning the championship was really the victory they thought it would be. What's really interesting about this entire situation is how it reflects a bigger issue in WWE storytelling right now. Factions are great, they're exciting, they create amazing opportunities for character development and narrative depth. But what happens when the leader of the faction becomes more concerned with control than with celebrating the achievements of his family members? What happens when championships are viewed as tools for the faction rather than as individual accomplishments? The Usos won those championships through their own hard work, their own determination, their own talent. Yet within moments of achieving that goal, they were being told that their achievement wasn't really theirs, it belonged to the Bloodline. Roman Reigns then made it clear that the Usos would be facing challengers very soon, and those challengers would be coming with everything they had because everyone wants to beat the Bloodline. The tribal chief told them that their championship reign would be defined by constant warfare, by never-ending challenges, and by the need to prove their dominance week after week after week. This wasn't a threat exactly, but it was certainly a sobering reminder that winning the championship was just the beginning, not the end. The mountain had been climbed, but now the Usos would have to defend that mountain against an endless army of challengers. The Usos understood this message clearly. They'd been in the business long enough to know what comes with being a champion, especially a champion within the Bloodline. But there was something different about this moment, something that suggested that the Usos might be starting to think about their individual legacy separate from Roman Reigns' shadow. Jimmy and G have always been exceptional athletes, exceptional performers, and exceptional entertainers. They deserve to have moments where they can celebrate their own accomplishments without immediately being brought back down to earth by someone reminding them of their place in the hierarchy. As the conversation wrapped up, Roman Reigns told the Usos that they had made the Bloodline proud, but in typical tribal chief fashion, he immediately followed that up with a qualifier. He told them that their next performance would determine whether they remained worthy of the Bloodline support. He basically said that winning the championship was just the price of entry, and now they had to prove that they could maintain that level of excellence and dominance going forward. This is the curse of the Bloodline, there's always another test, always another way to prove your loyalty, always another mountain to climb. What really got me about this entire backstage segment was the body language. You could see it in the Usos' faces. There was pride in winning the championship, absolutely, but there was also frustration, and there was also fatigue. Fatigue from constantly having to prove themselves, constantly having to seek approval, constantly having to validate their achievements through the lens of the Bloodline's broader agenda. And that's a fascinating place to leave this storyline because it opens up so many possible directions for where this could go. The question now becomes, how much longer can the Usos really operate within the Bloodline structure before they start to resent it? How long before they decide that their individual accomplishments matter more than the family's collective dominance? Roman Reigns has built an incredible faction, but he might be pushing his family members too hard, demanding too much, expecting perfection in every single moment. The Usos might be the first ones to crack under that pressure, or they might double down and prove that they can be everything Roman Reigns wants them to be and more. This backstage moment is crucial because it sets up an incredible amount of storytelling possibilities. It could lead to the Usos finally standing up to Roman Reigns and asserting their independence. It could lead to them becoming even more dedicated to the Bloodline's cause, trying to prove their worth through their championship reign. Or it could lead to a slow burn where the Usos gradually become disillusioned with the constant demand for validation and loyalty. The WWE Universe is genuinely unsure right now, and that uncertainty is what makes this storyline so compelling. One thing that stood out to me during this entire interaction was how Roman Reigns never once said the words congratulations or well done. He never once acknowledged the Usos' individual talent or their individual achievement. Everything he said was filtered through the lens of the Bloodline, filtered through the lens of maintaining dominance, filtered through the lens of serving a larger agenda. For some people, that's exactly what they want, to be part of something bigger than themselves. But for others that's absolutely maddening, especially when you've just accomplished something as monumental as winning the World Tag Team Championships. The Usos left that conversation with their championships in hand, but they didn't leave with the sense of pure joy and accomplishment that should have accompanied winning those titles. Instead, they left with a sense of obligation, a sense of responsibility, and a nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, there's more out there for them beyond the Bloodline's control. And that's the kind of storytelling that keeps people engaged, that keeps people talking, that keeps people invested in what happens next. Looking at the Bloodline from a broader perspective, what Roman Reigns is doing makes sense from a leadership standpoint. He's setting standards. He's establishing that mere victory isn't enough, excellence is required. He's reminding his family members that they're part of something bigger than themselves. But there's a fine line between motivating people through high expectations and demoralizing them by never acknowledging their individual achievements. Roman Reigns might be approaching that line, or he might have already crossed it with the Usos. The championship reigns for the Usos moving forward will be absolutely fascinating to watch. Will they wrestle with the freedom and joy that should come with being champions? Or will they wrestle with the pressure and burden of maintaining Roman Reigns' standards of excellence? Will we see them celebrate their victories with unbridled enthusiasm, or will we see them constantly looking over their shoulder, wondering if Roman Reigns thinks they did well enough? These are the questions that make this storyline so captivating. What really amazes me is how WWE managed to take what should have been an absolutely triumphant moment for the Usos and turn it into something complicated, something layered, something that makes you question the entire dynamics of the Bloodline. That's the kind of storytelling that separates average wrestling narratives from truly exceptional ones. The Usos won the championships, but that victory now comes with asterisks, with conditions, with the constant need to prove their value to the tribal chief. The impact of this backstage moment will reverberate throughout the WWE for weeks, maybe even months. The Usos' championship reign will be viewed through the lens of this confrontation. Every defense they have, every challenger they face, every match they win, it will all be filtered through this question of whether they're doing enough to satisfy Roman Reigns. And that constant scrutiny, that constant pressure, is either going to forge them into the most formidable tag team in the world, or it's going to break them. As we move forward, pay close attention to the Usos' demeanor, their body language, their interactions with other members of the Bloodline. Look for signs of frustration or resentment. Look for moments where they might assert their independence or push back against Roman Reigns' control. The seeds of a major storyline shift have been planted in this one backstage segment, and the WWE Universe needs to be ready for what comes next. This is why I love WWE storytelling when it's done right. This is why I'm passionate about analyzing these moments and breaking them down for you guys. Because when you peel back the layers, when you look beyond the surface level of who won and who lost, you find these incredible character dynamics, these fascinating power struggles, these emotionally resonant moments that make you genuinely invested in where the story goes next. So here's my question for you: do you think the Usos should have stood up to Roman Reigns and told him that they deserved to celebrate their championship victory without his criticism? Or do you think they made the right call by accepting his criticism and staying loyal to the Bloodline? Let me know in the comments section below, because I genuinely want to hear what you think about this situation. This is the kind of discussion that makes the wrestling community so great, where we can debate these storylines and character decisions and really dig into what makes them work or what makes them problematic. And while you're at it, tell me another question: if you were the Usos, would you eventually leave the Bloodline to pursue individual championships? Or would you stay loyal to Roman Reigns and see how far you can take the faction? This is the kind of long-term storytelling question that could determine where the Usos' careers go over the next several years, and I'm excited to see how WWE develops this narrative. The Bloodline story is far from over. In fact, this backstage moment might be the beginning of the end for their ironclad unity. The Usos have tasted championship gold, and they've also tasted the bitter reality of the demands that come with being part of Roman Reigns' inner circle. Whether they embrace that reality or rebel against it will define their careers going forward. Make sure you're subscribed to Ring Rumble so you don't miss any of our deep dives into these incredible WWE storylines. And please hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and share this video with other WWE fans who need to see this analysis.